Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Perspective. In studio today, I have a young man, an amazing young man. His name is Langdi. He is the author of this book. We are going to be focusing on the book. We're going to be focusing on mental health issues. We're going to be focusing on Langdi, my guest, and the amazing life he's leading. He is the executive director at the Gen Zen movement. And if you're wondering what that's about, well, he's going to unpack that and much, much more on the show this morning. We are going to focus on mental health issues, particularly in the younger generation. I think we, as the older generation, oftentimes forget that our youngsters are living and working under tremendous pressure. And finally, alhamdulillah, younger people are becoming aware of the environments they're working in, they're living in, they're navigating in, and sometimes those environments are very, very toxic, and it does create a mental health burden on young people, and I guess society at large as well. So Langdi has taken time out to join us in studio to talk about the issues facing young people in the world today, not only workplace, but in the tertiary institutions as well. Langdi, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam, Jazakallah for having me.
Jazakallah for making time to be in studio with us today. Now, you are a remarkable individual, alhamdulillah. You have achieved so much in your very young life. You are only 20 years old. You are studying accounting at UJ, but you've also gone on to write a book. And I have mentioned in the introduction that you are the executive director at the Gen Zen movement. I've showed the book up to the camera, but let's start with you, with your studies at UJ and also the Gen Zen movement. You are very passionate about mental health issues. Why?
Growing up in the community, we've seen the younger individuals, especially in the African community, right? We say Kasi, in the Kasi culture, we say crying is for the weak. In the Indian culture, the men, especially the men, they're suppressed. They're told not to cry. Crying is for the weak again. I've seen these battles that young people are facing. They're smiling on the outside, but they're broken on the inside. They're starting to lose passion for the things they love. They're following the traditional path. It's not getting them anywhere. That's not what they wanted to achieve in life, but suddenly they're there. And then I decided to write this book. And again, I didn't decide, I had to write this book, right? And when I wrote this book, starting off, a lot of statistics and research, a lot of numbers. I sat back and I'm like, no one's going to read a book with numbers, right? Only just because I'm doing accounting, the rest of the youth are not doing accounting. They're not going to look at numbers and realize what is going on. They don't need stats and facts to show that, okay, this is how you tackle mental health. Because everyone tackles mental health differently. What works for me might not work for you. And sometimes it's not only our minds, but it's the people around us as well affecting our mental health. And then I sat back and I looked at my book. I'm like, no, this is not what. We scrapped the whole book, 250 pages. We scrapped it all out. Then we went back to thinking.
So you talk in the plural, you're saying we. Who are the other collaborators in the writing of this book?
When I say we, Google is the main collaborator. And also psychiatrists. We had to get professional opinions. We had to verify the book. It had to go through many stages of verification. It went through SADAG as well, the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. So those are we. So I do not mention myself as I, because we all played a part into it. Fasiha as well, in the starting of the book, she wrote a gentle note for all the readers as well. So we all played a part into making this book happen, to finalize the book. And then when we sat down again, and then we're like, you know, if I were to read a book, right, I would not look at stats and facts. I would look at, as a friend, I need a friend to talk to. You know, sometimes our friends are also very harsh on us. I need a friend to talk to, a friend who understands, a friend who listens. And this book, if you're going to read through the book, you're going to see it's a friend-to-friend talk. It's not stats and facts. It's not, this is how you tackle mental health. There are solutions which might work, might not work again, but it's a friend-to-friend talk. No pressure, no judgment, nothing from anyone, just you, the book, and the room.
Mohammed, you are a second-year accounting student at UJ, but you're very passionate about mental health. It must have come from somewhere, something that perhaps triggered you in your youth, or something that you saw happening around you, maybe in the family home or in the immediate community you lived in. What was that one thing that you believe made you realize that mental health is an issue that people are ignoring?
Mental health is an issue people are ignoring, you're right. But people are observant. People know they're struggling with mental health. They just don't know how to, they don't go to the right support structures, or they don't see the support structures in front of them for them to get solutions or navigate through their mental health. When I was young, again in my community, I saw coming to a tertiary level again, we saw that the youth are struggling, right? Studying late nights, it's causing them anxiety, depression, burnout, all of these things, and they majorly affect the outcomes. The outcome meaning the test or the exams they're going to write. It majorly affects the marks, right? The percentages they're getting. And that again causes them mental health issues, such as depression, that, oh, I was supposed to score a 90, I just got a 70. You know, we do get people like that. And I've seen that in the environment I'm in. Some navigate and pivot their way into the negative world, and they get into drugs, and so forth. We see this as in the tertiary level. I see this daily happening, that people are on drugs, cigarettes. It's something open to talk about. I don't think it's something that should be suppressed and said that, oh, let's not talk about people doing drugs. We've raised community awareness. We've reached the certain groups of people who are in the communities who help with these things, to talk to the youth, to try to understand them, not judge them. That our community and societies have a thing that we judge. We don't listen to the youth. We don't try to understand them. We don't try to talk to them, but we gossip about them. We try to judge them, and that affects them. All right? As our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said in Sahih al-Bukhari 6136, the last line was, and if you were to speak good or be silent. Right?
Absolutely.
And if everyone just spoke good, Auntie Julia, the world would be such a better place.
But we're living in a very, very competitive world. We're living in a world that is driven by power. If you're powerful, if you make a lot of money, and we seem to equate all of that with respect, and it's not necessarily true. And people are wanting to reach the next level, and in every area of their lives: money, position, big house, big car, big, long degrees, etc., etc. And when that is not attained, people do become depressed, they do become anxious, they probably feel they are failures. What about younger people in the tertiary institutions, with the type of pressures that they're facing? What do you believe needs to be done to support them in those areas?
With the young people, when they're facing mental health issues, right? Sometimes it's from home, their communities, and in the tertiary level is everything including tertiary, right? Exams, educators, professors, their peers, whoever it may be. And to navigate that for the youth, we've created movements like the Gen Z movement. Right? We've created communities where youth can come in, share their problems. We host the environment of like-minded youth who come together and learn together, become better together. And what the youth need is support structures. Right? Again, with the support structures, it's not SADC, or it's not a specific movement or a specific place to be. It can be a friend. Right? Your support structure can be your family. It can be anyone. So I think the youth need that. The youth need to be reminded that there is people out there for you. And some people, they might not trust, they might not know, but there are people there out there, like the Gen Z movement, SADC. There are people in these communities, Be Visioneers from Mercedes-Benz. There are these people who are leading in these spaces, who are there to help
Okay, let's go for a break and we'll come back, we'll pick up on this. My guest is Mohammed Langdi. He is the author of the book called Under African Skies. The book is about mental health and support structures and just how widespread these issues are, not only in the tertiary space, but throughout society. And he's here to highlight that very especially through this book and just talking with people on a one-on-one basis. So do stay with us. Welcome back. My guest is Mohammed Langdi. He's the author of a book called Under African Skies. He is a second-year accounting student at UJ and is also the executive director of the Gen Zen movement. We're going to cover that as well, but I think something very important that he wants to talk about is the traditional path of education, and that takes us right back probably to primary education. Why is that so important?
As Socrates said, one of the greatest philosophers, question everything you don't know the roots of, that you believe that you don't know the roots of. And we went back to education. Education is something everyone does in their lives, right? So we went back in time. So to take you back in time just for a little bit, Prussia, today known as Germany, Poland, a little bit of Russia, they were the most deadliest armies in the world. And then one man came and changed everything. Napoleon Bonaparte. They faced Napoleon's army and they lost. The deadliest army lost. Their pride got hurt. They questioned, why did we lose? And then the answer they came to was Napoleon's soldiers were led. But the Prussian army, every soldier was thinking independently. And they came to the system of, we should teach them, or the soldiers, to lead, right? You have one leader and everyone should obey without any questions whatsoever. That's how the education system started. It started on bloodshed, war, order, law and order, all of these things, all the negative quotations you can give it back then, that's how it started, right? Now when we look at it, we're running through the same systems. If you guys have seen some of the Instagrams and TikToks, they would say cars back then, cars now, right? Houses back then, mansions now. But classrooms back then and classrooms now, they're the same. Nothing has changed. So the same system we've applied today in a much less harsh way, right? We're not told to obey, but we're told to follow the rules of the school. Right?
So you're talking about we're not teaching our children critical thinking skills.
Critical thinking skills, yes.
So explain to me what you believe is critical thinking and how we need to start applying it. If it is not taught to our children in the schooling system, in the government schooling system, I know it's offered in the private schooling system. Yes. What do we as parents and support systems then do with our children to get them to start thinking critically, and how's that going to serve them going forward?
When thinking critically, right, when parents are looking at the children, parents should look at what the children love, what they have a passion for while growing up. That's where they can apply critical thinking the best. Sorry. If they're not going to apply critical thinking to something they don't like, right? We know young kids, they don't like maths. Right? Starting out, no, maths, 1 + 1, 2, they don't love it. So they're not going to apply critical thinking to it. But if they love toys and you're going to break it down, you're going to break down their favorite toy, they're going to apply critical thinking and try to fix it no matter what. So critical thinking should be applied on things they love. They will critically think a lot about it, and more about it. They learn a lot from it as well. And this leads to creating leaders in the future. And leaders doesn't have to be people leading that are being seen, right? You can lead from anywhere in a workforce. You can be an employee, you can lead. You can be at a hierarchy level and you can lead. So it creates people. And what creative thinking does as well, when you're thinking creatively, it forces the mind not to just see what there is, but to have a broader perspective, open up, new ideas coming, new inventions, new things that people have never seen before, and people want to use every day. People want to have in their businesses, in their systems, in the tertiary environments, in the primary schools, in the high schools every day. So I think we should apply critical thinking to the children on what they love, right? And in schools we have standardized tests, right? Everyone is writing the same tests, writing the same things. So how can we say that they are taught critical thinking? That word, critical thinking.
It's a tongue twister.
It's a tongue twister.
It's a tongue twister. Let me then explore this concept with you. If we're saying that critical thinking is not being introduced to our children in primary schooling, once they get to high school and into universities or colleges, if that gap, if that hasn't been filled within themselves to think critically, is that the reason why we're finding lots of students at universities dropping out, not being able to cope and manage? And by so doing, we also not only dropping out, not being able to manage, that then brings on issues around anxiety and depression. So we come right back to square one with you and mental health issues in the tertiary environment.
Again, when we're looking at it from a broader perspective, right? If critical thinking is not developed early, right? When we look at students going through the phases of life, through primary, high, and tertiary, we look at them in a way, some individuals we've seen and we've met, especially being in the tertiary environment, they can't think outside the box. It's not that it's an insult, but they just can't, because they haven't had that opportunity or that learning environment where critical thinking was taught. And then dropouts and pivoting towards the negative ways, right? And when we look at that, it's a shame that the youth have so much potential. We see so much potential. That it brings tears to your eyes that, but you have so much to offer, so much to give to the people, to yourself, to your family, community, society, globally, but why? And
do we blame the education system, the way we learn, or do we have to get, should we apportion blame to our parents as well? Is it something they didn't do right or should have done? Or is it squarely the education system that has let down our youth?
When parents look at the education system, they need to understand that what their child is being taught, every child is being taught. No one is different from anyone, but every human is unique. Now the schools and the education system can't cater to every child's uniqueness. So I do not blame the education system as an organization. They're right on what they're doing. I think education, even though it had a bad history or a bad past, it's one of the keys to success. And it's not education, but it's knowledge. Knowledge is the key to success, right? Knowledge equals power, power to achieve, power to lead, power to innovate, power to critically think, all of these things. But partly to blame, I wouldn't blame the parents. It's just something they need to be conscious of. To say that their child, they know what their child is, who they are and what they are before the child even grows to say the word mama or papa, right? And I think the parents should spend time with the child to understand the child, to understand who he is, and develop critical thinking from their side.
And also, I suppose, nurture the strength of that child rather than push the child in a direction to get all A's in maths, English and Afrikaans, for example. If that child is more artistically inclined, then perhaps that's what they should be doing to fill that gap in the child's life when the child goes to school, because the school may not be able to do that. So let me come right back to you. We've looked at the education system. How do you believe it needs to be fixed?
If the child is suffering or can't be educated.
The broad education system, you have indicated it hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed.
How do you believe we need to fix it? I mean, you and I can't do it, but we need the powers that be to apply their minds to it.
When we think about it, the power to change the education system is a optimistic dream. Optimistic in a way that our education system is not only linked in South Africa, it's linked globally. And all the global, if we were to change one, we've got to change globally. You know, so it's a very optimistic dream. We can't change, from what I know, we can't change anything in the education system, but we can empower the education system to involve classes such as critical thinking, to think outside the box, to bring people's ideas together and support them in whatever they may be trying to achieve in their lives. So that's what I would probably put into the education system as an extracurricular activity.
Okay, we will take another short break, and when we come back, I want to talk about the book, what it contains, and also the Gen Z movement. Mohammed Langdi is my guest. He's the author of a book entitled Under African Skies. It does deal with how to navigate your life through mental health situations, and I think we all have those situations from time to time in our lives. It depends on how strong we are, and that, of course, I'm talking about our iman, inshallah, and our support structures as well. So do stay with us. Welcome back. Under African Skies is a book written by Mohammed Langdi. He is my guest in studio today. We're talking mental health issues amongst young people, and I think we're going to dive right into the book now. And I'm just looking at the table of contents, and something that's just popped right up at me is the social media illusion. Isn't that something that we're all talking about? The highs and the lows, the positives and the negatives, and how it can have an impact on young lives. Your thoughts?
My thoughts, when we're looking through social media, we look at everything on everyone's profiles or what they're showing us, their successes. They're showing the curated version of what they've done. When we look at social media, it's a very sensitive topic, because if I give an example personally of myself, when we launched Under African Skies, we launched it at Exclusive Books on the 27th of Feb, 2025. We had almost 90 guests, 90 to 100 guests at the book launch, right? A very wonderful crowd, great pioneers of thinking, a lot went in. And when I posted that on social media, people didn't see the hard work I put behind writing the book. They didn't see the hours we talked to psychiatrists, the weeks we waited for SADC to approve our books. We didn't post the hard work. We just posted our success. So
Your pretty pictures.
The pretty pictures, right? Who doesn't want to post their pretty pictures? So that's the illusion, right? The illusion is not just pick up, start writing, and you're at Exclusive Books someday. You know, we got to go through meetings, through countless hours of exercises, through UNICEF's training for mental health and nutrition. We're certified youth advocates. So what we see on social media is just an illusion. No one sees the hard work, right? There's a lot of hard work put into what we present on social media. Right?
How detrimental is this very flashy, pretty pictures that people post on social media, and what sort of messages, possibly wrong messages, is going through to our children? And I'm kind of wondering what, you know, it just creates this fierce competition amongst young people, and everyone wants to be flashy, wants to be beautiful, wants to be famous, wants to get X amount of hits because it indicates that they are in a position of power. Yes. That all adds to stress and anxiety. We need to, and especially you, Gen Z movement, need to start breaking down those false images which is really warping the minds of our children.
So when we look at this...
And let's bring in an Islamic concept here as well. We are Muslim, and those are not things that we should be hankering after. You know, unless it's positive, unless it's about our deen, and unless it's going to prove and produce very strong, grounded Muslim men and women.
Gee. So, circling back to the social media, right? When we're looking at all these flashy things, everyone wants to be that. I mean, who doesn't like materialistic things, right? But our deen and our iman doesn't teach that. It doesn't teach chasing the materialistic world. When it came to it, I've donated most of my profits of my book to Palestinian causes.
Subhanallah.
Gee. And we educate that. In the Gen Z movement, we've created an Islamic community, right? We preach Islamically, right? Whatever we talk, there's an inclusive group, right? But when we're talking and we're preaching, we make sure we stand behind the borders of Islam. We do not cross them. And when the youth on the other side are looking at it, we encourage the youth to look at Islam.
So you're actually doing dawah whilst you're doing this work as well?
Gee, so when I'm going to give talks into the corporate world, I give dawah to come for Jummah Bayan, just to come sit next to me. They don't have to pray, just to come listen what Islam is all about. And we've impacted a lot of individuals, Auntie Julie. It's amazing what people with open minds come and see, come and learn from us, how Islam started, how our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ walked the path of Iman, how the Sahabis brought deen and spread Islam throughout the world as well. And it's very beautiful that they have open minds to listen, to understand, not to judge, but just to listen and understand that, okay, is this the right religion for me? And we're always circling back to not crossing the Islamic borders. Whenever we're in our movements, in our spaces, in our communities, whatever talks we're giving, we do not encourage any harmful behavior. Everything's certified, everything. And going back to the communities, the older generation, they think mental health is a joke. The people I've met, what I've seen.
I think with the older generation as well, you're absolutely right. They don't take it seriously enough. Or on the other extreme, they would fob it off and possibly say it's jadoo, witchcraft, or whatever terminology you'd use. That's very sad. They need to be more supportive. But let's just close the loop on the issue around the social media illusion. You are young people, you are go-getters. How do you think we should start closing those gaps?
You see,
this very plastic world of social media, there's a lot of good that comes through it. But a lot of anxiety and depression is caused through devouring so much of social media content.
Whenever we talk about social media, I've heard a lot of people talking about taking a break from social media, having a space for yourself, staying off social media, and all of these things. Is that the solution though? Because if you're looking into this world, AI is taking over the world right now, right? Social media is in every business. It has to be there to promote their businesses to a global scale or for scalability, right? Some youth are the creatives behind social media. They have to be on social media, and the solution is what you normally would watch on social media is what the algorithm will refeed you, similar content. So I'd advise, right, following Islamic content, right, to the Islamic youth, following people, founders of thought. Now, founders of thought such as people who motivate you, right? There's Mufti Menk, there's a lot of Islamic scholars that are promoting wellness and promoting education and iman, the ilm, and I think following them and looking at them. So what happens whenever you look at them and whenever you go back after a little while on social media, the algorithm refeeds you what you saw, what you like. So I'd advise to look at good content and not the bad.
We find that within our communities as well, a lot of young people are becoming social media stars. They have X amount of followers, and it's just going crazy, just how everybody wants to devour the content they are putting out. Some of them put out very valuable content, but others don't. It's about where I've eaten, what dish I recommend, or what's the new color for the next season, etc. We don't really need to be exposed to all of that.
No, most definitely.
And I think social media, like I indicated, you know, you have the positive and the negative as well. And clearly it does impact on mental health. Having written this book, I'm wondering if you believe, with your strong following, that there is space to go out possibly on social media and indicate how this is having an impact on our mental health. The mental health of our young people, our thought leaders and our future leaders for tomorrow, because you are a leader in your own right as well.
Yes. When we're creating content, right, when we create content, we want to create content, good content, valuable content. One that teaches us, educates us, teaches us how to lead, teaches us the AI systems, teaches us new things in the world, new things in the environment, education basically. When I'm going out right now, I'm just posting myself. Personally, I'll take a personal example because I'm wrong for this. I'm posting my book, or if I'm on television, I'm posting that. We are getting into that space where we want to promote good content to the younger generation. When it comes to the younger generation, telling them not to be on social media, it's not going to work. I've been with my brother. I've had a younger brother. It's not going to work. Taking a break, it's not going to work. They have to be on social media. So instead of pivoting and I'm just going to pivot away and say, brother, watch good content. Watch content that educates you, teaches you math. There's STEM on TikTok now. It teaches you science, maths, and so forth, right? So look at content that inspires you, that educates you. So that's the content we want to create for the younger generation.
Okay, when we come back after this break, I want to talk about social media and other impacts regarding mental health and well-being, and what you believe we ought to be doing to go forward. Mohammed Langdi is the author of the book Under African Skies, and we are talking mental health issues, very especially amongst the younger generation. The Executive Director of the Gen Z movement is in studio with me. We're talking mental health, and he is, of course, also the author of the book Under African Skies. Mohammed, you're very passionate about mental health issues, yet you are studying accounting at UJ. You're in your second year. How come you didn't go into this field of study? Because you are so passionate. You've written a book and you talk non-stop about mental health and the impact of the current society and future leaders and future generations.
My mental health passion came to grow when I came into tertiary. I was already at tertiary studying BCom accounting, and that's when my passion for mental health grew, especially from the business show of Africa 2024, where I met TV personalities and so forth who guided me, who mentored me into what I am today. It's all thanks to them. And I started discussing about my mental health, and I started to slowly see a difference that I was just a bit, percentage-wise, I was impacting the youth I was talking to. Right? I was impacting them in a positive way. They came back to me with positive feedback. They tried what I had to say. For some it worked. For some we pivoted into a different direction. It worked out for them. And that's why I came to speak about mental health. And when I spoke about mental health, and then I wrote the book, and then after I wrote the book, I got very positive feedbacks. One of the comments I remember was, I'm super proud of you for what have you done. Today I'm whatever I'm holding in, I'm letting go, and I'm ready to chase my dreams. And that was, I didn't sleep the whole night. I sat up and I'm like, God, we're actually making an impact. And that for me was beautiful.
Did you have a personal issue with mental health that has driven you in this direction? Because you are making a very positive impact.
Yes. In my primary years, my ears were very prominent. And for that, I was bullied a bit. for right now, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't affect my mental health or anything of that sort. But back then, as a child, you know, those things are happening, and I go back home, and I don't discuss it with my parents. And most of the youth don't. Something is happening at school, they don't come and tell their parents this and that, you know.
If you're bullied at school, you don't normally share with your parents because you're afraid if they take the issue back to school, you'll be victimized even more.
Even further. And because of that mentality, we never discussed it with anyone. And I'm grateful for having supportive friends who never looked at me that way. You know, they saw me for who I am, not for who I look like or what I look like. And that brought many positive changes throughout my life. And with them as well, even though they were one of the best looking, you know, they had maybe stresses that came from exams or them not performing. Their parents saying that why are you not getting A's? Comparison is the thief of joy, right? And when young youth, they're just children, they're getting into primary school and high school, how are you comparing them to other children? They're gonna then, while they're growing, they're gonna compare themselves to others. Why am I not there? They'll never be happy with where they are. And I'm grateful where I am right now, but I'm not to an extent. I'm not very happy with where I am because there's still a lot I want to achieve, right? But I'm grateful, definitely.
You're only 20 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. Going back to comparisons, I think we as parents also do slip up a lot because we tend to compare our children. I hope it's not happening in this current generation, but going back to my time, we were always compared against our siblings, and that gave us terrible issues, self-esteem issues, etc., because you always kind of felt, I'm not good enough, or I'm not better than, or I should be. Those type of conversations all the time. And the one thing you touched on as well is bullying. We know that it's rife in primary and high schools. What does the scenario look like in tertiary?
Bullying is not very prominent in tertiary. Thankfully, when you enter the tertiary environments, either you enter, it's very separate from the world you come from. You don't have the same people around you, the same students, professors, anyone. There's hardly people you know there, right? And when you enter into a tertiary space, bullying is not very prominent. It's very less.
So if bullying is not an issue in tertiary, I know that bullying causes huge stress and anxiety in high school and primary school. But if that's not an issue in tertiary, what is causing the anxiety and depression and other mental health issues among students at university?
Again, comparison. I think comparison is one of the biggest stresses. And also the environments and the people they look up to. In tertiary, we often get that, oh, I want to be like that person. I want to be like that person. And there's a saying, never meet your idols. Never meet those who you look up to. Just never meet them because they're way different than what you see behind the screen.
Well, maybe it's a good idea to meet them because then that illusion will have been busted.
Maybe, all right? But then getting back into it, that anxiety and stress and depression comes mainly from what I've seen, academic studies, right? Academically, still people who have homes near the tertiary institutions comes from home as well. A little bit comes from giving too much responsibility because once you reach a tertiary level, you have a lot more responsibility on your shoulders. It feels like when people are looking at you, they expect you to be a whole lot more than what you are in life. When older people look at you, they expect you to be so much more. But you came in and you had a successful life only after 40. How do you expect a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old to have the success you have?
So
right?
The expectations on tertiary students are very, very high. That's creating anxiety and depression. There's also the issue around affordability. A lot of students at university have issues around financing. That too create lots of issues for them. So how is the Gen Z movement supporting them through all of this? We hear stories where students aren't able to pay their rent, so they sleep in the libraries at university, or there isn't food. There are a lot of organizations, Muslim organizations in the area that I live in, that collect monies to try and get food to the students at university. Okay. So how is the Gen Z movement now supporting the students at university?
We've created an environment. Our working group consists of members throughout different universities, so WITS, UJ, UP, into VC colleges as well. So we've put people into that. We haven't placed people in those spaces, but we've gotten people from those places to expand the reach of the Gen Z movement, to expand the reach in supporting the young people through whatever mental health issues they're suffering with, and to an extent, if we can assist with funding or whatever it may be, we do assist, right? We financially, we're not a strong movement as of yet to support any students that are struggling with financial capabilities, right? But we are improving in that matter. We are getting more students, more reviews, and
counseling services?
Counseling services.
Because earlier on you did speak about the Indian and the African communities where boys don't cry, that concept that we've been brought up with. But we do know that boys hurt too, and they need to cry and they need to talk about their struggles. Yes. Do you have counsellors in place, or, or do you refer them onto SADC? But the ideal would be to have someone on campus, counsellors on campus, for a space for the students to go to cry, to let it all out.
There are spaces like that on each campuses. There are counseling spaces, which is more or not from my thinking, it's free of charge, right? There are therapists and counselors who come and look into your problems, and students can let out. So.
Okay, we've almost come to the end. Which is your favorite chapter of the book and why, very quickly?
The social media illusion, we touched on that, and that's one of my favorite topics because it's the truth.
And it is an issue.
It is an
in
issue.
Society
in
today.
society today.
Mohammed Langdi, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you on the show today. Please go out and touch lives in a positive way. Continue doing what you're doing because you are on the right path. I do hope we'll talk with you again in the future.
I do hope so too. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Salam.
Thank you for watching. Till the next time, as always, from me, Julie Ali. Khuda Hafiz.